So we are at the last section of this particular HRCT basics thing. Okay, and so we basically started our discussion of HRCT basics under four categories. One was your reticular opacities. Second was your nodules. We discussed different patterns of the nodules. We discussed reticular opacities in depth. Okay, and I'm missing on one thing, that is your DDs. Okay, of these things. Okay, now why I'm missing on DDs? Okay, it will make one thing is that I have gone into depth of the concept, but I have not listed the DDs. Okay, I could have just simply listed them, but it would have taken time. So what I've done is I'll either make a separate video for that, or every particular disease is gonna be discussed in detail in individual videos. So I don't think it is important to just tell it now. Okay, we can, when we'll have a separate discussion on each and everything. Like, for example, we had a discussion on sarcoidosis, so we now very well know that what is perilymphatic pattern, and we know what is perilymphatic, that perilymphatic pattern is seen in sarcoidosis. Okay, but eventually I'll make a video definitely to look at the patterns. Okay, when we'll make a typical finding and its DDs, I'll make one video for that. But right now, bear with me and just go with the concept. So the third important section is about increased density of the lung. Okay, third important section is about increased density of lung. Density, or you might use a word of opacity. Okay, that is the third important section. And in this section there are two things that are there. One is your consolidation, definitely, and second important thing is your GGO. Okay, so our aim is to build a concept about the thing, that why increase density. Now this consolidation is simply, and both of them, this is caused by airspace pathology. Airspace pathology. GGOs is also caused by airspace pathology, but GGO has one more cause of GGO, and that is what? That is your interstitial thickening. Okay, GGOs can be caused by interstitial thickening. Remember this thing. That is why we can have GGOs in NSIP. NSIP, we have GGOs. We also have consolidation there. Okay, patchy consolidation, patchy GGOs we have there. So interstitial thickening, okay, can be associated with GGO as well. One thing that is very sure. And we know what is the difference between consolidation and GGO. How do they look? So consolidation, obviously, it obscure the vessels. It obscure vessels. Okay, it does not obscure vessels. So that is a difference, imaging difference. Now, when you have consolidation in front of you, or when you have a GGO in front of you, okay, you can't say anything unless you have clinical history with you. Okay, so consolidation or GGO, these are the two causes of increased density, and so they are divided in their etiology. Okay, I'm not going to discuss or tabulate etiologies here, but they are divided into etiology. So you should ask one question, whether the clinical symptoms are acute or they are chronic. Acute or chronic. Whether it's an acute consolidation, it's a chronic consolidation, it's a chronic GGO, or it's an acute GGO. So there are specific causes for that. Similarly, acute consolidations, for example, typical pneumonia. Chronic consolidations we see in chronic eosinophilic pneumonia. Okay, so there are different causes. And similarly, now one more important concept that we need to know about is GGO. Okay, what is the importance of GGO? Remember this thing. Let's say if you have a GGO, what does it signify? Remember this thing, when you have GGO, let's say, suppose you have a fibrotic lung disease, you are dealing with a fibrotic lung disease, let's say, and let's say you have GGO there. What does it tell you? Because obviously, if you have, in fibrotic lung disease, you have interstitial fibrosis. Okay, you have interstitial fibrosis, and when you have interstitial fibrosis, you can have GGO. I just told that GGO is also caused by interstitial thickenings. You can have GGOs. Now, GGOs say one thing very clearly. They suggest one thing. They suggest active disease. So when you have GGOs, it suggests active disease. Okay, active, that fibrosis is going on. Okay, that is what is the meaning of the GGO. And I don't think I'll need to just show how does these appear on image, obviously, because so we know how a consolidation looks on the, so this is like this, these all these are GGs. Okay, this is an image of chronic eosinophilic pneumonia. Okay, image of chronic eosinophilic pneumonia, and we have, what we have here is this GGs. So these are not basically obscuring the vessels; they are translucent opacities. That is what GGs. How does it look like? For the sake of completion, and we can have consolidations which obscure them. Okay, so it, like this. Okay, this is a consolidation, a patchy consolidation. Okay, it's a consolidation. This is an image in, although it's an image of Church-Strauss vasculitis, but we have patchy consolidations here. Okay, that is what the consolidation looks like. Anyway, these are the causes of increased lung density or opacity. Now, another important section that we need to go about is decreased lung density or thickening. Okay, so decreased lung, and how do they appear on X-ray? You know, they're very simple. We'll go and we'll give a section on chest X-ray. How does a consolidation looks, a atelectasis looks, or a GGO looks? So GGO commonly causes haziness or increased, typical increase in the, or basically the lung markings of the vascular markings. They are basically the borders are basically obscured. So that is what the typical findings on X-ray. Typical haziness is what GGO calls, and consolidation causes typical radiopacity, just like we'll discuss in detail when we deal with the chest X-ray. But now, we just go with the decreased lung density, okay, or opacity, whatever it is. The fourth section and the last section of this HRCT basics. So now these decrease in lung density, okay, is caused by, basically few things. Okay, and what are these things? Okay, so first thing is it could be an emphysematous change. Emphysematous change that can lead to, your decreased lung density. Second thing, it could be a cyst. Third thing, it could be air trapping. Now, air trapping and one other word is your mosaic perfusion. Okay, they are basically suggesting same concept. Okay, they are nothing but same concept, but two different words. And why there are two different words, I'll just tell in a minute. Okay, so mosaic perfusion, they're same concept that in layman terms the air is getting trapped, but we use air trapping is in post expiratory scan, and we use mosaic perfusion in inspiratory scan, or the conventional scan we always take in HRCT. Okay, we does not always take post expiratory scan, but we take inspiratory scan. Emphysematous changes and cysts. So there are three things, to be precise, that can cause a decrease. These are basically same things, air trapping and mosaic perfusion. Only thing is that the terminology difference is there depending on what scan you have. Now, how to differentiate them? Now, see, emphysematous changes are nothing but, basically enlargement of the air spaces or irreversible enlargement of air spaces, and cyst. Okay, mosaic perfusion or air trapping, it's a simple different thing. Okay, that is there. So how to differentiate? Okay, so just look at this. So there are 2-3 things that you need to look, okay, when you have a decreased lung density. First important thing is that you need to see that whether there is a, discernible wall of this opacity. Meaning, if you are seeing this particular reduced lung density, whether there is a clear cut wall or there or not, wall is present or not. Second thing is the shape. If you answer these two questions, you will simply be able to differentiate whether the lung density is emphysematous change, it's a cyst, or it's a mosaic perfusion. Why? Because its shape could be geographic shape, or it could be simple round to oval shape. Other thing, it could be that you have a distinct wall or you do not have. So let's go back to our three differentials for a decreased lung density. What are they? So here in emphysematous change, I generally have no wall. The wall is not there. Remember this thing. But a thin wall may be present. But if you want classical emphysematous changes, the wall is absent in emphysematous changes, and that's what differentiates them from cyst. Because in cyst, you have wall. In cyst, you have wall. Okay. Now, other thing that is going to be differentiating. Would be, here you have wall, is that cysts are round to oval, circumscribed. These are also circumscribed. They also appear round to oval. So the wall is a differentiating factor between emphysematous changes and cyst. Now air trapping and mosaic perfusion altogether, these neither have wall, so there is no wall, and also their typical shape is geographic. Okay, typical is geographic shape. Okay, so be differentiated on the basis of these two questions. If we ask and if we know, we can differentiate between these three things. Okay, now mosaic perfusion or air trapping, it could be small or large depending on the airway that is involved. See, when we have mosaic perfusion or air trapping, it's basically what, airway obstruction, or I should say dynamic air obstruction, because it typically enhances when we expire. When it expires, what happens? Due to airway pathology, airway tends to collapse to air, so that air gets accumulated. Now the airway that is involved, it could be a small airway or it could be a large airway. So if you have large, small airway getting involved, you have small air trapping areas or small mosaic perfusion. You have large areas, but they will be definitely, both of them will be geographic. Typical location, typical areas like this, geographic areas. This would be circumscribed. Emphysematous change would be circumscribed or round to oval. But here you have a wall. Insist, you do not have a wall here. So these are the three, and I've just told you how does they appear. Okay, to differentiate them. Okay. Next important thing to understand is that we discussed about, okay, so how does, okay, so let's look at the image first. Let's look at the image. Yeah, this is the image, and so there are two images, inspiration and expiration. And if you look closely on inspiration, or the typical scan that we obtain in HRCT, we obtained this image, and in this image you can clearly see these areas, these small areas. Okay, these small areas. What is the shape? Shape is typical geographic shape. Okay, geographic shape, and there is no wall that is discernible. So there is no wall. Now these two features suggest that it is most likely areas of mosaic perfusion. Okay, since I'm discussing it on the inspiratory scan, I'm going to write it to be mosaic perfusion. Okay, now surrounding areas they're little bit denser. okay, but here the density is quite low. Okay, so there are areas of low density, and we localize it to a mosaic perfusion. Now what I did basically, I asked the patient to expire and then I take the scan. Okay, so this scan that I take is after expiration, so it is a post expiratory scan. It's a post expiratory scan. And what happens when you expire, so basically your air is basically exhaled out, and air is the one that causes a decreased density of the lung that is apparent on the imaging. So if you expire the air, so the density should normally increase, and that is why if you see the normal areas that are typically normal, they will have increased density. Okay, if you see the normal areas, abnormal areas I have marked. Okay, this is also abnormal, so I have marked abnormal areas. So the unmarked normal areas, if you compare these at the post expiratory scan, there is a increased density is increased everywhere. Only the abnormal areas are basically what they have remained stagnant, or they just remained with the low density in the post expiratory scan. So what does it signify? They even these areas should have shown increased density on post expiratory scan, but no, they didn't show. Why? Because the air is trapped there, so air is not getting exhaled out even on expiration or forceful expiration that we ask the patient to do. And that's what makes them more conspicuous on a post expiratory scan, and that is what the utility of post expiratory scan is there, that when you ask the patient to expire, so the contrast increases, because the normal lung that is there, it exhales the air out and its density increases, so the low density areas, they become more prominent. And that is why we do post expiratory scan in case of when we suspect mosaic perfusion. Okay, so we clearly define where are the areas. Now these are very small areas. Okay, there could be large areas as well, and since the areas are small, so you can have uh, basically due to small airway disease. So this is what the importance of post expiratory scan is there, and I've compared it with the inspiratory scan. And so at this particular post expiratory scan, the terminology that I use is simply what? Air trapping. I do not use mosaic perfusion here. Air trapping word is used at this point. Okay, and mosaic perfusion used here. Okay, now another important point that is to be discussed is, see, why do you see decreased lung density here? Okay, in mosaic perfusion or air trapping, but the question is why do you see it? That is important, and that is a concept that I would like to give. See, you have a decreased density not because of things related to lung parenchyma, but due to what? It is due to paucity of vessels. So in our UG days, when we studied for PG exam, we understood one thing that is very specific for these pulmonary vessels, and they behave atypically, that in response to hypoxia, normally in response to hypoxia, vessels everywhere in the body, they tends to show vasodilation. But pulmonary vessels typically in response to hypoxia, they show vasoconstriction. And why do they so? They do so to channelize the blood into those areas where you have air. Okay, so let's say if in the lung you have air in this location and you have deficient air in this particular location. Let's say this is air deficient part of lung and this is air abundant part of the lung. Okay, so it's a defense mechanism of the pulmonary vessels that here you will have hypoxia since it is air deficient. So vessels at this location will be vasoconstricted or simply disappear. Since they disappear, so the density of this particular part of the lung is going to be decreasing. Okay, and this particular part will have dilated vessels, so density typically increases. Okay, so a patch of lung parenchyma shows a decreased density, and a patch of lung parenchyma adjacent to it shows an increased density. That is what creates a mosaic appearance. Mosaic means basically variegated appearance, and that is why the word mosaic perfusion is there. Word mosaic comes with the appearance, variegated appearance, and word perfusion, because word perfusion comes with the vessels, concept of vessels, because it's the vessels that are deficient in the area of decreased air or decreased simply hypoxia. That is what the vessels are deficient, and that is why it causes mosaic perfusion. Okay. And air trapping is a phenomena that you see on post-expiratory scan. Why? Because the already existent air that is there in those particular areas is trapped. It's not able to get out. Okay. So mosaic perfusion is something that vessels are not there. But when you compare it with the post-expiratory scan, you see that the air trapping is a cause of mosaic perfusion. Okay. So let's discuss one more concept, and that is, this will make it more finer. So mosaic perfusion, always whenever you read something, just go on the word and decipher the word. The word tells everything. The term tells everything. Mosaic means variegated appearance. Perfusion is related to vessels. So we have decreased vessels, that's why we have decreased density. Okay, so we have mosaic perfusion. Now understand this thing. You have a paucity of vessels. Okay, paucity of vessels could be by the physiological phenomena. Just I discussed that if you have hypoxia or you have the air deficient areas in the lung, okay, which will cause the vessels to decrease or reduce in size, which will cause the appearance of that particular part of lung to be decrease in density. But another thing that could happen is simply if the pathology is affecting vessels directly. Okay, now vessels are affected directly by the pathology. And in what pathology, we have vessels getting directly affected? Very simple, vasculitis. So if vessels are inflamed or vessels are basically destroyed, then also we can have what? Then also we can have what? Mosaic perfusion. But do you think that mosaic perfusion at this particular point is due to airway? No, it is not due to airway. Airway is normal here, and still we have mosaic perfusion. So that is why we do basically post-expiratory scan. So when we do post-expiratory scan, we are able to tell one thing. On post-expiratory scan, if you see air trapping, I just told what air trapping looks like. So basically those areas which do not show an increase in lung density that normal lung does. So if you air trapping is there or air trapping doesn't happen. Okay. So if you have air trapping, it suggests that airway is abnormal. Airway is abnormal. If you do not have air trapping and still you have mosaic perfusion, this suggests that the cause of mosaic perfusion was simply what? Vascular cause. And vascular cause of air perfusion are simply vasculitis. It could be pulmonary embolism as well. If it is a pulmonary embolism, vessels are not enhanced by contrast and you do not see vessels. So you see an area or a patchy area of basically unopicified vessels. Okay, it will appear to be low in density. It could be pulmonary embolism that is causing it. Small pulmonary emboli. Okay, that is there. And typically pulmonary embolism will cause what? It will cause wedge-shaped infarcts also. So those infarcts, okay, and in early stages they will appear like a low lung density and typically wedge-shaped areas there in the periphery of the lung. So in the periphery of the lung, if you see multiple these areas, okay, it could be an emboli also. Okay, so on post-expiratory scan, we can differentiate the cause of mosaic perfusion. So till now, one misconception that was there, the mosaic perfusion is equal to air trapping. No, mosaic perfusion is not equal to air trapping. Why we use mosaic perfusion on inspiratory scan? There is a concept. Why we use air trapping word is on the post-expiratory scan? There is a concept. And we do post-expiratory scan to differentiate between the causes of the mosaic perfusion that we see on the inspiratory scan. If you see air trapping, the airway is abnormal. If you do not see air trapping, look for the vascular cause. Even on the inspiratory scan, if you see in the areas of mosaic perfusion, okay, if you see areas of mosaic perfusion and simultaneously with those areas you also see airway abnormalities, this also suggests indirectly that it is due to airway abnormality is a cause. So if they have in the same areas. Okay, so that was all about air trapping or mosaic perfusion as a cause. Two other causes were, emphysematous changes or cyst. Okay, I discussed cyst can also cause circumscribed area with the wall Now cyst also important. One thing that we need to know about the cyst is that there's something called pseudo cavities or pseudocyst. Okay, pseudo cavities to be very precise, not pseudocyst. Okay, why? See, cyst can be formed by, cyst can be formed by cystic lung diseases. Now these lung diseases, cystic lung diseases, they are rare although. Example, you have LAM, lymphangioliomyomatosis, pulmonary Langerhans cell histiocytosis. Okay, these are two common cystic lung diseases. They are rare diseases, and in these diseases, primarily we have multiple cysts in the lung. Okay, multiple cysts in the lung. Okay, so the primary pathology is simply cyst. Okay, but you can also see cyst forming secondary to something. And I told in the beginning or in the early part of this same series or the lecture of basic HRCT is that cyst can be formed secondary to fibrosis. Fibrosis can give rise to cyst. Bronchiectasis can give rise to cyst. Okay, so we can have cyst secondary to bronchiectasis as well. We can have a bulla, emphysematous bulla that can appear like a cyst. We can have cyst due to honeycombing. Okay, and in like staph pneumonia, we have pneumatoceles. So these are secondary cysts. They have appearance of cyst, okay, which is formed due to some pathology. Primary cyst, we have cystic lung diseases, which are rare. Okay, that is one concept. Now, finally, we just look at the images. So this was your inspiration expression, and so this is your honeycombing secondary cyst. This is your typical tree in bud pattern. I think I have not shown it. Okay, so this is a typical tree in bud pattern that is there. And you can see at the periphery of this lung. Okay, this is a tree in bud pattern, and this is the image showing why it is compared with a tree in bud. So it's a tree in bud, and you can clearly see these are what bronchiolitis, which is opacified bronchioles. Okay, at the center of the lobule, and these nodules which you see at these are peribronchial inflammation. Peribronchial inflammation. Okay, and we see it here also. So multiple areas. Associated finding, you can see there are bronchioles that are dilated. This is typical sign that you're seeing his signet ring sign. Okay, signet ring sign of bronchiectasis and tree in bud. So okay, it could be bronchiectasis also. This means that infection is a cause, and we know that bronchiectasis is associated with infection obstruction vicious cycle. So this is a typical tree in bud pattern. Okay, yeah. So this is a typical case of lymphangioliomyomatosis. Lymphangioliomyomatosis. So what do we see here? We see walls here. Yes, we see wall here. Okay, so you can see this. There is a wall. You can see there is a wall. Again, this cyst. This tiny wall is there. Okay, somewhere it is very thin, maybe, but you can see the wall is there. These are not wall-less. So if the wall is there, simply they are cyst. Okay, now only thing that is there, that are these cyst whether these cysts are primary or secondary. If they are primary, they go into QDDs only, cystic lung diseases. Okay, cystic lung diseases. And if they are secondary, we will have other findings as well which are causing the cyst to form. Okay, so this was cyst. Now this is one thing that I didn't discuss. Okay, so you have something called cyst and you have something called cavity. Okay, so cyst versus cavity, what is the difference? Why? Because both of them have air, they are air containing. Okay, so this is a cavity, and typically it is a cavitatory consolidation. Cavitatory consolidation that you are going to see. So it was basically a large consolidation, if you see, which shows cavitation changes. Okay, so this means that the typical injury is in the bronchiole is there, and that is causing the bronchiole got ruptured and it causes release of the air. So it's a cavitatory consolidation. And why? How to differentiate? The simple differentiating factor is the wall thickness. Is the wall thickness. So if the wall thickness of cyst is always less than 3 mm, remember this thing, and the wall thickness of a cavity is more than 3 mm. This is the criteria that we follow. Less than 3 mm, more than 3 mm. Wall thickness criteria. Okay, so I think we discussed all images in this section, and that was all about this. Yeah, and we discussed chest X-ray also. Okay, in chest X-ray we discussed about the reticular patterns. Okay, medium reticular pattern, fine reticular pattern, or a coarse reticular pattern. How does they appear? What are the relations with the um, HRCT findings? One thing that we didn't discuss, and I just like to briefly mention it, is that we didn't discuss about the nodular pattern on X-ray. We discussed nodular pattern on HRCT. Nodular pattern X-rays simply will be nodules only. Okay, there is nothing nothing different. There will be nodules, multiple nodules, single nodule, multiple nodule. Okay, it would be either solid nodule or ground glass nodule. Okay, that is what it is. Only thing that you need to know is that you need to also see whether the nodule is well defined, okay, or it is an ill defined nodule, because these have some implications. Okay, like well defined nodule are characteristically what? They are interstitial. Okay, this suggests interstitial pathology. Example, if I ask you question, what is your miliary nodules? Miliary nodules of TB or fungal infection, these miliary nodules with hematogenous spread, okay, they are typically what? Interstitial nodule. They are typically interstitial nodule. That is why these nodules are well defined. If you talk about ill defined nodules, they are simply that involvement of airspace is there. They are in the alveoli. Okay, airspace. Okay, so these are the causes. Now there are also important thing, size is also important factor. Okay, size is important factor. If you have small size nodules, typically less than 5 mm, okay, in this particular pattern, or whether it is 5 to 10 mm. Okay, so if you have 5 to 10 mm, then remember this thing, less than 5 mm are typically interstitial pattern. Okay, because why? Even if once you have small nodules, no, like less than 5 mm, it doesn't matter whether it is well defined or ill defined. It matters only in large nodules. Okay, if you have large nodules like more than 5 mm, only in then you need to know whether it is well defined or ill defined, on that matters, on that matter. But if it is less than 5 mm, doesn't matter whether it's well defined or ill defined, the interstitial abnormality is always there. Okay, you will have interstitial abnormality there. Okay, that is important. And there's so many diseases, nodule pattern are there, like miliary. Okay, you have nodules. We also studied nodule in your silicosis. We also studied nodule in your sarcoidosis. Okay, we have it. Okay, and we studied reticular pattern as well. So reticular pattern and nodular pattern, when they simultaneously happen, you have reticunodular pattern. Okay, and that is this basically not very quite an accepted terminology of reticunodular pattern, but yeah, people use it. Okay, similarly, increase in lung densities in chest on chest X-ray, it could be a GGO, it could be consolidation. So we discussed, I think, all the spectrum of the findings pertaining to lung diseases, or diseases primarily affecting the lungs, on HRCT as well as on chest X-ray. Okay, so that was all, and thanks for this. And please subscribe this channel for more such videos, because subscribing a channel is a motivation for the creator to create more and keep on creating. Okay, so thanks a lot.